The cargo ship moved slowly through the dark space. Kyle Morrison sat in the captain's chair and watched the stars pass by. He had been flying freight ships for 15 years now. The work was boring, but it paid enough to survive. That was all anyone could ask for these days. Kyle looked at his crew. Lisa Grant stood at the navigation station checking their route. She was his first officer and had been with him for 3 years. She still believed the galaxy was a fair place. Kyle had stopped believing that a long time ago. Peter Hayes was down in the engine room. The old engineer never came up to the bridge unless something was broken. He didn't trust aliens, didn't trust the government, and barely trusted other humans. But he kept their ship running, and that was what mattered. Amy Chen was the youngest of them all. She was only 23 and had joined them 6 months ago. She was a good pilot, fast and smart. She didn't talk much about her past, but Kyle knew she had lost her family in the plague. The same plague that took his little sister 20 years ago. They were hauling ore from mining colony Delta 7 back to the processing stations. It was a standard run, the kind they did every month. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. Just another job in a life full of boring jobs. Then Amy spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal. It's a distress beacon." Kyle frowned. Distress beacons were rare out here. The Kepler Nebula was mostly empty space, used only for travel between systems. "Nobody lived here. Where's it coming from?" he asked. "About 2 hours away. It's weak, like it's been running for a long time. The signal says it's from a research station." Lisa turned to look at him. "We should check it out. Someone might need help." Kyle knew the rules. They were supposed to report distress signals to the authorities and keep moving. Getting involved meant delays, questions, and paperwork. But something about this felt wrong. A research station out here in the middle of nowhere? That didn't make sense. "Change course," he said. "Let's take a look." 2 hours later, they found the station. It was small, maybe the size of a house, floating dead in space. No lights, no power, no life signs. The metal hull was old and worn. This place had been abandoned for years. "I don't like this." Peter's voice came through the radio from the engine room. "This feels like a trap." "There's nobody here," Amy said, scanning the area. "No ships, no signals except the beacon. It's completely empty." Kyle made his decision. "Lisa, you're with me. We're going over there. Amy, keep the ship ready. If anything happens, you jump away and call for help." They put on their spacesuits and crossed over to the station. The airlock still worked, which was surprising. Inside, emergency lights flickered on when they entered. The station had backup power, just barely. The place was a mess. Papers were scattered everywhere. Equipment was smashed. It looked like people had left in a hurry, or maybe there had been a fight. "What kind of research were they doing here?" Lisa asked, picking up a broken tablet. Kyle found a computer terminal that still had power. He turned it on and started looking through the files. Most of them were damaged or encrypted, but one folder was labeled Evidence and it wasn't locked. He opened it. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Documents. Hundreds of them. Orders from the Valdari Empire's military command. Research reports on biological weapons. Lists of human colonies. And videos. So many videos. Kyle clicked on one of the videos. It showed a school on a human colony. Children were playing outside. Then soldiers arrived. Valdari soldiers in their distinctive armor. What happened next made Kyle want to throw up. "What is this?" Lisa asked, looking over his shoulder. Then she saw the screen and stepped back. Oh God, no." Kyle kept reading. The documents told a story. 20 years ago, the Valdari had decided that humans were becoming a problem. Humans had too many children. They were spreading too fast. In a few generations, humans might outnumber other species in the Federation. So the Valdari made a plan. They would reduce the human population. Not all at once. That would be too obvious. They would do it slowly, carefully. They would target the children. They created a disease, a plague that only killed human children. They released it on 12 colonies at the same time. 800,000 children died in 3 months. The Valdari said it was a natural plague, a tragedy, and they offered their sympathy. They even sent medical supplies to help. But it was all a lie. They had murdered 800,000 children. Kyle's sister was one of them. She was only 7 years old when she got sick. The doctors couldn't help her. Nobody could help any of them. The plague killed them all, and now Kyle knew the truth. It wasn't a plague. It was genocide. "We need to copy everything," he said, his voice shaking. "Every file, every video, every document. We need proof." Lisa was crying, but she nodded and started downloading files to a portable drive. Kyle kept searching through the computer. He found more evidence. Test results showing the plague was artificial. Communications between Valdari officials discussing the operation. Budget reports showing how much they spent on the genocide. There was even a final report written by whoever ran this research station. It said the project was a success. The human population had been reduced by the planned amount. The operation had cost less than expected. They recommended doing it again in another 20 years if humans started growing too fast again. Kyle wanted to scream. He wanted to break something, but he forced himself to stay calm. They needed this evidence. They needed to show the galaxy what the Valdari had done. Download finished, Lisa said. We have everything. Good. Let's get back to the ship. They were halfway back to the airlock when Amy's voice came through their radios, panicked and urgent. Captain, we have company. 3 Valdari warships just jumped in. They're headed straight for us. Kyle and Lisa ran. They reached the airlock and jumped back to their ship. Amy had the engines warming up already. How long until they get here? Kyle asked, strapping into his chair. 5 minutes, maybe less. They're fast, Captain. Military ships. Kyle looked at the screen. 3 warships, each one 10 times bigger than their little cargo hauler. They had weapons that could blow his ship apart in seconds. They were watching the station, Peter said, coming up to the bridge. They knew we were here. This was a trap. Can we jump to hyperspace? Kyle asked Amy. I need 2 more minutes to charge the drive. We don't have 2 minutes. The warships were getting closer. Kyle could see them on the sensors now. They were spreading out, trying to surround his ship. They're hailing us, Lisa said. They want us to power down our engines and prepare to be boarded. Kyle knew what that meant. If they were boarded, the evidence would be taken. They would probably be killed. The Valdari couldn't let them live, not after what they had discovered. Amy, get us into the nebula. Use the gas clouds for cover. That's dangerous, Captain. The sensors don't work well in there. We could hit something. Do it anyway. It's our only chance. Amy pushed the engines hard. The ship dove into the thick clouds of gas and dust that filled the nebula. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The sensors showed only static and shadows. The warships followed them in, but they were slower now. The nebula affected their sensors too. Kyle's smaller ship had an advantage here. They could move faster, turn quicker, hide in the clouds. Hyperspace drive ready, Amy said. Jump now, Kyle ordered. The ship lurched as it entered hyperspace. The nebula disappeared, replaced by the strange colors and lights of faster-than-light travel. They had escaped, but Kyle knew this was just the beginning. The Valdari knew someone had found the evidence. They would be looking for his ship. And when they found it, they would do anything to keep the truth from spreading. Lisa was staring at the portable drive in her hands. It held the evidence of the worst crime in human history. What do we do now? She asked quietly. Kyle looked at his crew. They were scared. They had every right to be. What they knew could start a war. What they knew could get every human in the galaxy killed, but they couldn't keep quiet. 800,000 children deserve justice. His sister deserved justice, we warn everyone, Kyle said. We tell every human in the galaxy what the Valdari did, and we tell them to run. The ship jumped out of hyperspace near Outpost Zeta. It was a small mining station far from the main shipping lanes. Not many people came here, which was exactly why Kyle chose it. They needed to hide and they needed help. Kyle knew someone at the outpost. Danny Pierce ran supplies for the remote colonies. He was an old friend, someone Kyle trusted. If anyone could help them, it was Danny. They docked at the station and Kyle went to find Danny. He found him in a storage bay, checking inventory on a tablet. Kyle Morrison, Danny said with a smile. Haven't seen you in 2 years. What brings you out to this corner of nowhere? Trouble, Kyle said. Big trouble. We need to talk somewhere private. The smile faded from Danny's face. He led Kyle to a small office and locked the door. Kyle told him everything. The research station, the evidence, the Valdari warships. He showed Danny the files they had copied. Danny watched the videos in silence. His face went pale. When he finished, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. I knew it, he said quietly. We always knew something was wrong about that plague. It was too perfect, too targeted. But we had no proof, we? Kyle asked. Danny looked at him. There's a network. People like us who never believed the official story. We call ourselves the Embers. We've been preparing for the day when the truth came out. Preparing how? Come with me. You need to meet someone. Danny took Kyle deeper into the station, through corridors that weren't on any map. They went through hidden doors and down old maintenance tunnels. Finally, they reached a large room that had been converted into a command center. A dozen people were working at computers and communication stations. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls. Lists of names and coordinates filled the screens. A woman in her 50s walked over to them. She had gray hair and tired eyes, but she moved like a soldier. "This is Catherine Walsh," Danny said. "She leads the Embers." Catherine shook Kyle's hand. "Danny says you have evidence." "Show me." Kyle gave her the portable drive. She plugged it into a computer and started going through the files. Her expression didn't change as she read the documents and watched the videos. But Kyle saw her hands shaking. "This is it," she said after an hour. "This is what we've been waiting for. Proof that they murdered our children. Who are you people?" Kyle asked. "What is the Embers?" Catherine sat down and gestured for Kyle to do the same. "We're parents who lost children," she said. "Doctors who knew the plague wasn't natural. Scientists who saw the data didn't make sense. Military officers who received strange orders. We're people who suspected the truth but couldn't prove it. How many of you are there?" "Thousands across 50 systems. We've been organizing quietly for 20 years. Building resources, making plans. We knew that if the truth came out, humanity would need to run. The Valdari would never let us live if we exposed them." She brought up a map on the screen. It showed human colonies across the galaxy, connected by colored lines. "This is the Exodus Protocol," Catherine said. "It's our evacuation plan. We have supply caches hidden across 50 systems, colony ships disguised as mining vessels, communication networks that the Valdari can't monitor, maps to uncharted space beyond the galactic rim." Kyle stared at the map. "You're planning to evacuate all of humanity. 4 million people. That's how many humans live in Federation space. We can't save them all, but we can save most of them if we act fast." "And go where?" Catherine pointed to the edge of the map. "Beyond the known systems. Out there, beyond the Federation's reach. We'll build our own civilization free from alien control." Kyle's crew had joined them by now. Lisa, Peter, and Amy stood listening to Catherine's explanation. "We should tell the galaxy what the Valdari did," Lisa said. "Show everyone the evidence. Some species will support us." Peter shook his head. "That's stupid. We need to run now before they find us. Tell people later when we're safe." "We don't have time for both," Catherine said. "If we broadcast the evidence, the Valdari will lock down every human colony immediately. They'll trap millions of people before we can evacuate them. But if we run without warning anyone, most humans won't understand why. They won't come with us." Kyle understood the problem. They needed people to know the truth so they would evacuate. But telling the truth would make the evacuation harder. "What do you think we should do?" he asked Catherine. Before she could answer, an alarm sounded. One of the operators called out from his station. "We're receiving an emergency transmission. It's encrypted, coming from one of our contacts in Valdari space." Catherine put the message on the main screen. A man's face appeared. He looked terrified. "This is Agent Marcus Cole. I work in Valdari Intelligence. You need to hear this. The High Council just approved a new operation. They're going to do it again. Another purge of the human population." The room went silent. "They detected a security breach at the research station," Cole continued. "They know someone found the evidence. They're afraid the truth will spread, so they're moving up their timeline. The operation begins in 1 week. They're targeting everyone this time. All 4 million humans in Federation space," the message ended. Catherine stared at the blank screen. "1 week," she said. "They're giving us 1 week." Kyle felt sick. 1 week to warn 4 million people. 1 week to evacuate entire colonies. It was impossible. "We have to activate the protocol now," Danny said. "Start the evacuation immediately." "Not enough time," Peter said. "We need at least a month to move that many people. Then we'll save who we can," Catherine said. She turned to her operators. "Send the signal. Activate Exodus Protocol. All cells, all systems. Tell them to start evacuating immediately." The operators started sending encrypted messages across the galaxy. Kyle watched the map light up as confirmation signals came back. The network was activating. People across 50 systems were receiving the order to run. But it wouldn't be enough. They all knew it. Lisa spoke up. "We still need to warn everyone. Not just the Embers, everyone. Every human in the galaxy deserves to know the truth." "That will alert the Valdari," Catherine said. "They'll move faster. They're already moving, Lisa argued. We have 1 week either way, but if we broadcast the truth, at least people will understand why they need to run. They'll know we're not crazy. They'll know their government wants them dead. Kyle thought about it. Lisa was right. People needed to know. They deserve to know. How do we broadcast to everyone? He asked. Catherine pulled up another map. The Federation's Central Communication Relay. It's on Arcturus Prime, the capital world. If we can access that relay, we can send a message to every human colony simultaneously. That's impossible, Peter said. Arcturus Prime is the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. We'd never get close. Not impossible, Danny said. Difficult, yes. Suicidal, probably, but not impossible. Catherine looked at Kyle. It's your choice. You found the evidence. You brought it to us. If you want to run, I understand. You've done enough. Kyle thought about his sister, 7 years old, dying from a plague that wasn't real. 800,000 children murdered for population control. 4 million people about to die the same way. We go to Arcturus, he said. We broadcast the truth. People deserve to know what's coming. Lisa smiled. Amy nodded. Even Peter didn't argue. Catherine started making plans. They would need a team. People who could infiltrate the capital, hack the relay, and fight their way out. It was a suicide mission, but someone had to do it. I'll assemble the best people we have, Danny said. People who are willing to die for this. How long do we have? Kyle asked. Catherine checked her computer. The evacuation has started. Our ships are moving to the colonies now. But the Valdari will notice soon. We have maybe 3 days before they realize what's happening. We need to broadcast before then. 3 days to plan and execute the most dangerous mission in human history. 3 days to tell the galaxy that humanity's government had committed genocide. Kyle looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. Then let's get to work, he said. The transport ship approached Arcturus Prime 3 days later. From space, the planet looked beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, huge cities that glowed at night. It was the center of the Galactic Federation, home to billions of aliens from 100 different species. And somewhere down there was the Central Communication Relay. The key to warning every human in the galaxy. Kyle sat in the cargo hold with his team. Danny had assembled 6 people for the mission. All of them knew they probably wouldn't survive. Jake Murphy was a former soldier who had served in the Federation's security forces. He was big, quiet, and knew how to fight. Nicole Rivers was a hacker who used to work for Federation intelligence before she got tired of their lies. Sam Torres was a pilot who had flown supply runs to Arcturus dozens of times and knew the planet's defenses. Lisa, Peter, and Amy completed the team. They had all insisted on coming despite the danger. Remember the plan, Jake said, checking his weapons. We land at the commercial port. We're maintenance workers hired to repair equipment at the relay station. Nicole gets us through security. We access the relay, send the broadcast, and get out before anyone realizes what happened. And if something goes wrong? Amy asked. Jake looked at her. Then we fight our way out. Or we die trying. The ship landed without incident. Sam had fake work orders that got them through the first security checkpoint. They loaded their equipment onto a transport and headed into the city. Arcturus Prime was massive. Buildings reached into the sky like mountains. Flying vehicles filled the air. Aliens of every shape and size walked the streets. Kyle had never seen so many different species in one place. The relay station was in the government district, surrounded by high walls and guard towers. Getting in wouldn't be easy. They arrived at the main gate. A Valdari guard stopped them. Work orders, the guard said, holding out his hand. Sam gave him the fake documents. The guard scanned them with a device. For a moment, Kyle thought they were caught. Then the device beeped green. Sector 7, Relay Room 3, the guard said. You have 2 hours, they drove inside. The relay station was huge, filled with equipment and workers. Nobody paid attention to a maintenance crew. They looked like they belonged there. They found Relay Room 3 and set up their equipment. Nicole pulled out her computer and started hacking into the system. Peter and Lisa watched the door. Jake and Kyle stood ready in case guards showed up. Amy stayed with the transport, ready for a quick escape. How long? Kyle asked Nicole. 10 minutes to break the encryption. Then I can upload the broadcast. They waited. Every second felt like an hour. Kyle kept expecting alarms to sound, guards to burst in, everything to fall apart. I'm in, Nicole said finally. Starting the upload now. The files began transferring. Video evidence of the massacre. Documents showing Valdari orders. Lists of the 800,000 dead children. All of it flooding through the relay to every human colony in the galaxy. Kyle had recorded a message to go with the evidence. His voice would be the first thing people heard. To all humans in Federation space, my name is Kyle Morrison. What you're about to see is proof that the Valdari Empire murdered 800,000 of our children 20 years ago. The plague was not natural. It was genocide. And they're planning to do it again. They want to kill all of us. This is not a lie. This is not a mistake. This is the truth. You need to escape now. The coordinates are attached. We have ships waiting. Don't trust the Federation. Don't believe their lies. Run or die. This is not a drill. This is our last warning. Upload complete, Nicole said. The message is going out to every human colony. Everyone will receive it in the next few minutes. Kyle felt a moment of relief. They had done it. The truth was out. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the building. A voice came over the speakers, speaking in the Valdari language. Kyle didn't understand the words, but he knew what they meant. Lockdown, intruders detected. Security forces incoming. Time to go, Jake said, pulling out his weapon. They ran for the exit. Guards appeared at the end of the corridor. Jake fired, and the guards scattered for cover. The team kept moving, fighting their way through the building. More guards arrived. Peter threw a device that exploded in a burst of light and noise, blinding and deafening the guards temporarily. They ran past while the guards recovered. They reached the transport where Amy was waiting. She had the engines running. Go, go, go. Jake shouted. The transport lurched forward. Guards fired at them, bullets hitting the armored sides. Amy drove straight through the gate, smashing it aside. Behind them, more security vehicles were giving chase. Military aircraft appeared in the sky above. We need to get to the ship, Sam said, checking his navigation. The spaceport is 10 kilometers away. We're not going to make it, Lisa said, looking at the pursuing vehicles. Jake looked at Kyle. Someone needs to slow them down. Buy the rest of you time to escape. No, Kyle said. We all make it or none of us do. That's not how this works, Jake said. He grabbed his weapons and opened the back door of the transport. Tell people what we did here. Make sure they remember. Before anyone could stop him, Jake jumped out. He rolled to his feet and started firing at the pursuing vehicles. One of them swerved and crashed. Another slowed down. Keep driving, Jake shouted over the radio. Don't stop. Amy pushed the transport faster. Kyle watched through the back window as Jake fought. He took down 3 more vehicles before the guards overwhelmed him. Kyle saw him fall. They reached the spaceport. Their ship was waiting, engines already warming up. They abandoned the transport and ran for the ship. Military fighters were scrambling to intercept them. Sam got them into the air just as the fighters arrived. Missiles streaked past. Sam dodged and weaved, pushing the ship to its limits. I need 30 seconds to charge the hyperspace drive, Peter shouted from engineering. We don't have 30 seconds. Sam shouted back. More fighters were coming. The ship shook as a missile exploded nearby. Alarms blared. Systems were failing. 20 seconds, Peter said. Sam flew into a cloud bank using the dense vapor to break the fighters' target locks. The ship rattled and groaned. Metal screamed as the hull took damage. 10 seconds, a fighter got a clear shot. A missile hit them directly. The ship spun out of control. Amy grabbed the controls and tried to stabilize them. Drive ready. Jump now, Peter shouted. Kyle hit the button. The ship jumped into hyperspace half a second before another missile would have destroyed them. They were safe. But Jake was dead. The crew sat in silence as the ship traveled through hyperspace. Nobody knew what to say. They had succeeded, but the cost was high. Nicole checked her computer. The broadcast reached everyone. Every human colony received the message. It's spreading across the galaxy now. Even non-human species are seeing it. Kyle pulled up news feeds from across the galaxy. The response was immediate and chaotic. Human colonies were in uproar. Some people believed the message immediately. Others thought it was propaganda. Some alien species expressed horror at the evidence. Others defended the Valdari. The Valdari government issued a statement. They called the broadcast terrorist propaganda. They said the videos were fake. They ordered all human colonies to remain calm and stay in their homes. Planetary lockdowns were being implemented for everyone's safety, but it was too late. The truth was out. And across 50 systems, the evacuation was already beginning. Catherine contacted them an hour later. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked exhausted. "You did it," she said. "The message is everywhere. People are moving. The evacuation is accelerating. How many can we save?" Kyle asked. Catherine's expression darkened. "Not enough. The Valdari are moving faster than we expected. They're deploying fleets to blockade human colonies. Some settlements are already trapped. We estimate 3 million might escape. The rest will be caught. 1 million people trapped. 1 million people who would die because they couldn't escape in time. We need to buy them more time," Lisa said. "How?" Peter asked. "We're a cargo ship with a few weapons. The Valdari have entire battle fleets." Kyle thought about Jake's sacrifice, one person buying time for others to escape. Maybe that's what they all needed to do now. Fight back not to win, but to give people time to run. "We fight," he said. "We organize a defense. We hit the Valdari where it hurts and make them slow down." Catherine looked at him through the screen. "You're talking about war." "They already started the war," Kyle said. 20 years ago when they killed our children. We're just fighting back now." The evacuations were chaos. Across 50 systems, humans abandoned their homes and ran for the ships. Families packed whatever they could carry. Children cried. Parents made impossible choices about what to leave behind. Some colonies succeeded. Hidden transport ships disguised as mining vessels for years revealed their true purpose. They loaded thousands of refugees and jumped to unknown space. The Valdari never saw them coming. Other colonies weren't so lucky. Valdari warships arrived before the evacuation finished. They blockaded the planets and trapped millions of people on the surface. The people could only watch as their escape ships were destroyed before they could launch. Kyle watched the reports from Catherine's command ship. Every update brought more bad news. Colony Epsilon trapped with 200,000 people. Station Helios successfully evacuated 50,000. Mining outpost Crimson Dawn fighting a ground invasion. Agricultural world New Terra still evacuating 1 million people while 500,000 waited their turn. The numbers were terrible. They might save 3 million, but 1 million would die. "We can't outrun them," Peter said, looking at the tactical displays. "The Valdari fleets are too fast. They're cutting off every escape route." Kyle knew Peter was right. Running wasn't enough. They needed to fight back, to slow down the Valdari forces and buy time for the evacuations. But humans weren't warriors. They were miners, farmers, factory workers. They had no warships, no weapons, no training. Peter suddenly looked up from his computer. "Wait, we do have weapons. We just never thought of them that way." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Mining equipment. We've been using it for decades. Drilling lasers powerful enough to cut through asteroids. Explosives strong enough to crack open mountains. Ships designed to push rocks the size of buildings. We have an entire industrial fleet that could be converted into weapons." Kyle understood immediately. The human colonies had thousands of mining vessels, ore haulers, drilling ships, excavation equipment. None of it was designed for combat, but all of it was built tough and strong. "Can it work?" he asked. Peter grinned. "Only one way to find out." Catherine contacted every mining operation in human space. The response was immediate. Miners understood the plan right away. They had the tools and the knowledge. All they needed was the courage to fight. And courage was something humans had plenty of. These were people who worked in the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. They faced vacuum, radiation, and asteroid storms every day. Fighting aliens wasn't much different. The conversion began. Ore haulers were fitted with missile racks loaded with mining explosives. Drilling lasers were mounted on turrets. Tugboats designed to push asteroids became ram ships. Industrial shielding was reinforced to provide basic armor. They weren't proper warships, but they were something. And something was better than nothing. The first test came at Colony Epsilon. 200,000 people were trapped there, surrounded by a Valdari fleet of 50 warships. The evacuation ships couldn't break through the blockade. Kyle volunteered to lead the defense. He assembled 20 converted mining ships and prepared to attack a force more than twice their size. "This is insane," Amy said as they approached the Valdari fleet. "We're going to die." "Probably," Kyle agreed. "But we're going to take some of them with us. And we're going to buy time for those people to escape." The Valdari saw them coming. They probably thought it was funny. A handful of mining ships against military warships. It should have been a massacre. But Kyle had studied mining operations his entire life. He knew how to use terrain, how to set traps, how to make the environment work for you. and the asteroid field around Colony Epsilon was the perfect terrain. The human ships dove into the asteroid field. The Valdari followed, confident in their superior weapons and armor. They didn't know the humans had spent weeks rigging the asteroids with explosives. The first Valdari cruiser passed between two large asteroids. Peter pressed a button. The asteroids exploded, sending fragments into the cruiser at high velocity. The armor held, but the ship was knocked off course, crashing into another asteroid. The other Valdari ships spread out, trying to avoid the traps. That's when the human ships attacked. They used their knowledge of the field to ambush from behind asteroids. Drilling lasers cut into vulnerable engine sections. Mining charges exploded against hull plating. The Valdari fought back, but they were in unfamiliar territory. The humans knew every rock, every hiding spot, every angle of attack. What should have been an easy victory became a nightmare. A tugboat piloted by a miner named Carlos rammed directly into a Valdari destroyer. The impact destroyed both ships, but it created an opening for 3 evacuation transports to break through the blockade. An ore hauler commanded by a woman named Sophie used its cargo of explosive-filled containers as giant bombs. She released them near a cluster of Valdari ships, then detonated them remotely. 2 frigates and a cruiser were heavily damaged. Kyle led his ship in a dangerous game of cat and mouse with a Valdari battleship. He used the asteroids for cover, popping out to fire his drilling laser at the bigger ship's weapon systems, then disappearing before it could return fire effectively. The battle lasted 3 hours. 10 human ships were destroyed. Dozens of miners died. But the Valdari fleet was broken. They had lost 15 ships and retreated to regroup. More importantly, the evacuation completed. 200,000 people escaped while the Valdari were dealing with the unexpected resistance. News of the victory spread quickly. Other colonies took heart. Humans could fight back. They could win. More mining ships were converted into improvised warships. More colonies organized defenses. The pattern repeated across a dozen systems. Humans using guerrilla tactics, fighting from asteroid fields and nebula clouds, hitting hard and disappearing before the Valdari could respond. The Valdari High Council was furious. They had expected easy targets. Instead, they were losing ships to miners with improvised weapons. It was embarrassing. Commander Theron Vex, the Valdari officer who had overseen the original genocide, was assigned to crush the human resistance. He was efficient and ruthless. He didn't make the same mistakes as the other commanders. Vex studied the human tactics. He learned their patterns, and then he adapted. He sent scout drones ahead to detect traps. He used long-range bombardment to clear asteroid fields before entering them. He deployed overwhelming force against any resistance. The human victories slowed. More ships were destroyed. More people were trapped. Catherine sent Kyle an urgent message. We've evacuated 2.5 million people, but there are still 1.5 million trapped across 20 colonies. Vex is closing in on all of them. We don't have enough ships to defend them all. Kyle looked at the map. The remaining colonies were scattered across the galaxy. Defending all of them was impossible. We need to make a choice, Peter said quietly. We can't save everyone. Lisa refused to accept that. There has to be a way. We can't just abandon them, but Kyle knew Peter was right. They didn't have enough resources to defend 20 colonies. They would have to focus on the ones they could save and accept the loss of the others. Then Amy spoke up. What if we don't try to save all of them? What if we focus on one target, something so important that it forces the Valdari to pull forces away from the colonies? What target? Kyle asked. Amy pulled up a star map and pointed to a system near the center of Valdari space. Arcturus Prime, their capital world. The seat of their government. The room went silent. You want to attack their capital? Peter said. That's suicide. Exactly, Amy said. It's so crazy they won't expect it. And if we hit them there, if we threaten their home world, they'll have to pull their fleets back to defend it. That gives the colonies time to evacuate. Kyle thought about it. It was insane. Arcturus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Attacking it with a fleet of mining ships was certain death, but it might work. Not to conquer the planet or win a battle, just to scare the Valdari enough that they pulled their forces back. We'd need every ship we have, Lisa said. Every converted miner, every armed transport, everything. 500 ships, Catherine said over the communication link. That's what we have left. Against the 1,000 ships defending Arcturus. We don't need to win, Kyle said. We just need to make them afraid. Show them that humans can reach their home world. Make them realize we're not victims anymore. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll send out the call. Every ship, every crew. We attack Arcturus Prime. The message went out across the human fleet. The response was immediate. Miners, traders, farmers, factory workers, people who had never fought before volunteered to attack the enemy capital. They knew they probably wouldn't survive. But they also knew that their sacrifice might save millions of others. The fleet assembled near the Galactic Rim. 500 ships, none of them built for war, but all of them carrying people who were ready to fight. Kyle looked at his crew. Lisa, Peter, Amy, Nicole, Sam, Danny. They had all come so far. Found the evidence, broadcast the truth, organized the resistance. Now they were going to finish what they started. Ready? He asked. They all nodded. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you hunt humanity, Kyle said. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading straight for the heart of the Valdari Empire. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. 500 ships faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Sensors showed over 1,000 Valdari warships defending the capital planet. It should have been terrifying, and it was, but Kyle felt something else too. Pride. These were ordinary people who had become warriors because they had no choice. Miners and farmers standing against an empire. Nicole had hacked into the Federation's emergency broadcast system one more time. Every species in the galaxy was watching. They would all see what happened next. Kyle opened a channel to the entire fleet. His words would be recorded, broadcast, and remembered. To all who are watching, you killed our children, 800,000 of them. You hunted us like animals. You thought we were weak because we didn't fight back. You were wrong. He paused, looking at the Valdari fleet ahead. We remember every child, every parent, every lost soul. Today you learn what humans become when you take everything from us. We are leaving your galaxy, but first we want you to remember us. We want every species to know this truth. Never hunt humanity. Never massacre our children, because we will burn your worlds to ashes before we let you forget. The human fleet charged forward. They didn't have military formations or tactical precision. They had desperation and rage. They had nothing left to lose. The Valdari defenders reacted with shock. These primitives were attacking their capital. The pride of the Empire was under assault by what they had considered livestock. But shock turned to alarm as the humans proved they weren't easy targets. Mining lasers tore through defensive stations. Explosive-laden ships rammed into orbital platforms. Tugboats pushed asteroids toward military installations. The Valdari fought back with overwhelming firepower. Human ships exploded by the dozens. The losses were terrible. But the survivors kept coming, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. Kyle's ship dove through the defensive line, dodging fire from 3 cruisers. Lisa targeted a shipyard with their remaining missiles. The explosions lit up the darkness of space. Peter rerouted all power to the engines and weapons. The ship groaned under the strain, but it kept moving. Amy piloted through debris fields that would have stopped most crews. Across the battlefield, human crews fought with incredible courage. An ore hauler captain named Rachel flew directly into a battleship's bridge, sacrificing herself to take out the enemy commander. A tugboat pilot named Gary used his ship's towing cables to pull 2 Valdari frigates into each other. The humans weren't trying to conquer Arcturus. They were making a statement, showing the galaxy that humanity could reach the Valdari homeworld, that even the mighty Empire wasn't safe from human vengeance. Commander Vex watched from his flagship in orbit. He had expected this to be easy. These were mining ships crewed by untrained civilians. They should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, he was watching his forces struggle against an enemy that refused to break, an enemy that fought with a desperation he had never encountered before. Target their command ship, Vex ordered, pointing at Kyle's vessel on the tactical display. Kill their leader and they'll fall apart. 3 battleships converged on Kyle's position. Their combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Kyle saw them coming. We can't survive that, Peter said, looking at the sensors. We don't have to survive, Kyle said. We just have to hurt them. He checked the tactical map. Vex's flagship was behind the 3 battleships directing the battle. It was heavily armored and protected, but Kyle saw an opening. Everyone to the escape pods, Kyle ordered. I'm going to ram that flagship. No, Lisa said. We're staying with you. That's an order. We don't take orders anymore, Peter said. We're in this together. Kyle looked at his crew. They had been through so much together. Found the truth, broadcast the warning, fought impossible battles. He couldn't ask them to sacrifice themselves, but he also knew they wouldn't leave. They were his crew, his friends, his family. Amy, get us past those battleships, he said. Peter, overload the reactor. When we hit that flagship, I want the explosion to be big enough that people see it from the surface. The ship accelerated to maximum speed. The 3 battleships opened fire. Missiles and energy beams tore through space. The human ship's shields failed immediately. Hull plates melted. Systems exploded. But Amy kept them moving, weaving through the attack, dodging what she could and absorbing what she couldn't. The ship was dying, falling apart around them, but it kept flying. They passed through the battleship formation. Vex's flagship loomed ahead, massive and powerful. Kyle could see Valdari crew scrambling to intercept them. Reactor critical, Peter shouted. 30 seconds to meltdown. That's all we need, Kyle said. The flagship tried to move, but it was too slow, too massive. Kyle's ship, burning and broken, crashed directly into the command section. At the moment of impact, the crew activated the emergency ejection system. Escape pods shot out in all directions, away from the collision. Kyle, Lisa, Peter, Amy, and Nicole were thrown clear, just as the reactor exploded. The blast was visible across the entire star system. Vex's flagship broke in half, its command structure destroyed. The Valdari admiral died along with most of his senior officers. The Valdari fleet fell into chaos. Their commander was dead, their flagship destroyed. The humans had reached their home world and struck a devastating blow. Catherine's voice came through on the emergency channel, reaching all the escape pods. All human forces, retreat now. The message is sent. Get out while you can. The surviving human ships turned and jumped to hyperspace. They had lost 300 vessels and thousands of crew. But they had accomplished their mission. They had scared the entire galaxy. Danny's ship picked up Kyle's escape pod along with a dozen others. The crew reunited on his bridge, bruised and exhausted but alive. Did it work? Kyle asked. Catherine's face appeared on the screen. She was crying, but she was smiling too. It worked. The Valdari are pulling their fleets back to defend their core worlds. They're abandoning the blockades. The last of our people are evacuating now. We're going to save them all. 4 million humans jumping to freedom. Ships disappearing beyond the galactic rim to worlds the Federation had never charted. A new home, far from alien control. Catherine sent one final broadcast to the galaxy before the humans left forever. Her voice was calm and clear. We are leaving. We will build our own civilization far from your reach. But remember this day. Remember what happens when you push humanity to the edge. We don't start fights, but we finish them. And if you ever find us again, if you ever threaten our children again, we won't run. We'll come for you, all of you. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The last human ship jumped away from Federation space. Behind them, the galaxy was changed forever. News of the battle spread across every world. Some species were horrified by the violence. Others were inspired. The Valdari had always presented themselves as invincible, but humanity had proven that was a lie. Within a year, 3 other species rose up against Valdari rule. The empire that had lasted for 1,000 years began to crumble. The balance of power in the galaxy shifted. Beyond the galactic rim, humanity built new colonies. They remembered the 800,000 children. They remembered the sacrifice of everyone who died fighting for freedom. They built monuments and schools and told the stories to every generation. Kyle retired to a farming colony with Lisa. They married and had children of their own. Every night they looked up at the stars and remembered how far they had come. Peter designed ships for humanity's new fleet. Real warships this time, not converted mining vessels. Ships built to defend their new home if anyone ever threatened them again. Amy trained the next generation of pilots. Young people who would never know life under alien rule. People who grew up free. Catherine became humanity's first president in their new government. She led with wisdom and remembered always that freedom was worth any price. Years later, Kyle stood at a memorial on humanity's capital world. 800,000 names carved into black stone. His sister's name was there, along with Amy's family and so many others. A crowd had gathered for the anniversary of the evacuation. Thousands of people, all of them free, all of them safe. Kyle spoke to them. We escaped. We survived. We are free. But we never forget. These children died because we were weak, because we trusted those who saw us as less than them. Never again. We are humans. We protect our own. And if anyone threatens our children again, they will learn what our enemies learned. He paused, looking at all the faces in the crowd. Humanity does not break. We burn brighter. The crowd cheered. Children played in the gardens around the memorial. Ships flew overhead carrying supplies to new colonies. Lisa took Kyle's hand as they walked away from the memorial. Their children ran ahead, laughing and free. "Do you think they'll ever find us?" she asked quietly. Kyle thought about the Valdari Empire crumbling under rebellion. He thought about the legend of humanity spreading across the galaxy. The species that was hunted but refused to die. The species that fought back against impossible odds. "Maybe," he said, "but if they do, they'll remember what happened last time. And they'll think twice before they threaten us again." The sun was setting on their new world. The sky turned orange and purple. In the distance, construction robots were building.